recorded.
Your conference is being recorded.
Great. All right. So this month with our Live Lunch and Learn, we're going to talk about team dynamics and the usage of group analytics in helping to both create teams, understand teams, manage teams. So lots of information that we can give you to help look at your team or create new teams differently. So this can come from a hiring aspect. If you're hiring somebody new into a team, this can be really useful. If you're a manager and you want to just simply understand, how does my team operate as a team? How am I different from each of my team members? Am I seeing any gaps? Or if you're creating kind of task teams, we do this a lot with clients who bring together groups for projects and then kind of dismantle and come back together for a different project. So if you're working on a task group or a project group, using predictive index data to create those can be incredibly helpful and increase efficiencies and output with teams. We've had a lot of success with that. So when you're looking at a team, right, we get questions a lot that say, what's the perfect makeup of a team? And our answer every time is, well, it depends on what you're looking to do with that team. So sometimes if you, with a project team, for instance, we often will look for more balance. So you'll want someone who's the kind of creative, big picture person. You'll want your socializer that's going to connect really quickly with the client. Maybe they're the client-facing portion of the team. Then you're going to want your analytic person who's really going to take the data, drill down, follow through, cross all the T's, dot all the I's, really follow through on what that big idea is. Then we've got our stabilizers who are slow, consistent, making sure that nobody's kind of ruffling any feathers, the steady Eddie, if you will. So there's lots of components that can go into a group, lots of people that can go into a group. So we're going to look at the ways that you can use the information to then translate it to what it is that your group is looking to achieve. One thing that we see that there we go. So the three biggest areas that impact group dynamics, and this is over and over and over again with every group that I work with, these are the three sticky points. These are the points that cause what I like to call more chafe than trouble, but where we kind of rub up against each other because oftentimes we think we're doing something that another person likes, but it's simply because that's how we like to do it, right? So the golden rule doesn't really apply here. So the first place, whoops, sorry about that, transition's bad here. Am I not going to, oh goodness. My transitions are bad. Well, so it's communication, decision-making, and taking action. So when we're looking at communication, people really do need different things in both giving communication and receiving communication. If someone prefers to have a quick chat, hey, let's just, get into a group scrum, we're going to talk it out, we're going to go back, we're going to do what we need to do. Versus someone else who really prefers to get that information in an email, so they're very clear on what it is that they need to do. So that's receiving information, same as giving information, right? So someone may prefer to send you an email that's going to be pretty direct, to the point, no fluff, and someone might take that as rude. That's more like, hey, how was your weekend? Oh, by the way, can I get that info? So really looking at how we like to give and receive information, as well as how our teammates like to give and receive information, can cut out a lot of the trouble that can happen by he said, she said. The next one is in decision making. So really one of the key factors that we look at when we're looking in the decision making part of it is if someone, how risk averse or risk tolerant they are. So when we're really looking at how comfortable am I with risk, and that's going to help me kind of drive forward with my decisions. So we'll definitely look at that. And then finally, taking action. So this is a big one too, really big kind of space that can cause troubles on teams. That if you've got a bunch of people that are fast moving, charging, like pick up the ball, run with it, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's get it done, let's get it done. Working with on a group of with other people that are whoa, let's slow down, let's analyze this, let's look at all the angles. There's no need to take an action now. I really want to respond to this situation rather than just move with it. And a lot of the times, those two can see the other one as either moving too fast or going too slow. So kind of the speed at which and how we take action is a really big part of group dynamics. When we're talking about group dynamics, we're really just talking about teamwork, right? How does this team work together? How do we get the most out of what it is that we're doing? How do we work together? So it's also about being comfortable on a team, building trust, because the trust is the basis of getting that work done. So it's being comfortable at work and producing the best quality work. And how do we do that? Because everyone's going to bring something different. So as you know, here at PI, we talk a lot about the drives, the needs, and the behaviors. This is the basis for everything. So when we're looking at teams, we're also looking at who are the individuals, and we're also going to talk about there's a team personality as well. So as a team, we can be a certain way. So I have drives that then create my needs, that then can create some predictable behaviors. My team that I work with also has team drives, team needs, and team behaviors. And in the group analytics tool, there'll actually be a pattern line that will tell you overall in general, that's how your team is driven, what their needs are, and what their behaviors could be. So one team may be more of the guardian. They're precise with their work. They're follow through. They're really all about getting those T's crossed and those I's dotted, preserving the company. Whereas another team is all about social connection, getting to know everybody, not as worried about those details. Let's really all just get together and talk. That's a pretty sales versus ops situation. So when you've got two teams, we can also look at this as why does this department maybe bump up against this department, and how can we get them to understand each other better as well? So not just team dynamics within the team, but team dynamics within different teams. So just as a refresher for any of you who have not been through training, or if you have, it's just really good to always come back to these, right? So we're looking at those drives that I mentioned, the 4 drives: dominance, extroversion, patience, and formality. So when we're looking at dominance, it's the drive to influence people or events; extroversion, the drive for connection with others; patience, the drive for consistency and stability; and formality, the drive for rules and structure. As we go through the group dynamics, I'm going to talk about these a little bit more because they do come in, and understanding that a team is going to have a higher or lower level of this. And if you've got members of a team that in general has high dominance, but you have a few members that have low dominance, how do we kind of need to make space for them? How do we support them best? And as always, the other reminder is that, oh, my transitions, guys. Sorry, this one was all about intensity. Just remember that that intensity matters. So when we end up looking at the pattern of the group with the pattern of the people, it doesn't mean that everybody that has a higher A is all going to behave the same way, right? So looking at kind of our outliers, and if everyone is in one place, if we've got an outlier far on the other side, what can that look like? Because especially with teams, intensity will matter. All right, enough with the review. Here we go. So for those of you who have been in the system and run group analytics, this is going to look very familiar to you. For those of you who haven't, this is going to look like gibberish. So let's help figure out what this is. So the group analytics tool in the system, and these are the images out of the new beta of Crescendo, and if you're, it's even easier to run analytics now in beta. So if you haven't done it yet, feel free to play around in there, or let me know and we can get you a demo for it. All of these blue boxes here with the numbers above them are representing members on this team. So this is a 10-person team, and the number above is how many people fall into that category. So if you remember how to read the your pattern, right? We start in the middle at that triangle, anything to the right is high, anything to the left is low. So for this team, when we look at the A, the team itself is evenly balanced when it comes to dominance. We've got 5 people that are high dominant, 5 people that are low dominant. We've got 4 that are right within that first sigma area, and we've got 2 that are becoming a little bit more outlier. So if we were looking for a balanced amount of dominance, this is a good balance, right? Now, what this tells us is in this group, the people with the higher level dominance, sometimes we may have to ask them to kind of go second when it comes to meetings, right? When we have a team meeting, those people, those 5 people on the right there, we may ask them like, hey, I know you guys always have great ideas and I know you're really open on sharing them immediately. I'm going to ask you to sit on your ideas and we're going to let the people on the low side go first. So it's just understanding that the lower dominance people, it's not that they don't have great ideas. It's just they're going to be a little bit more hesitant to speak first than the ones on the right-hand side. However, if you're using your team as this is a task team, this is going to be great because you have an equal number of leaders as you do followers. The lower level of dominance are like, okay, what does the team need? Tell me what my task is and I'm ready to go. And then you've got the people on the right side that are coming up with ideas and want to lead. Now, you may want to look in there to see if there's any struggles between those people wanting to take lead over each other, because the people to the right are going to be your challengers, right? So this overall view here gives us the pattern of the team. So our team here, moderate dominance, high level of extroversion, low level of patience, and low level of formality. So we're going to be, in general, a talkative group that's moving quickly and is less concerned with the how we get there as the that we get there. So if you're working this team against another team that has, let's say, a very low level of dominance, a low level of extroversion, a high level of patience, and a high level of formality, they're going to bump into each other in all aspects, right? So communication, decision-making, and taking action. This particular team here is built to communicate verbally and enthusiastically. They are very comfortable making decisions and with risk, and they are proactive in taking decisions. They're just going to kind of pick it up and go with it. So as a team, that's how we work. Now, what you want to look for, too, here is, okay, I've got some people, those purple triangles there are the team average. So I want to look if I've got anyone that's really far away from my team average. How is that person being included in the team? When you run this report as well, I'm using the blue because I can't share names with you. At your company, you can actually run this so you can see everybody's name. So you'll know exactly where everybody is. And it's up to you if you want to share with the team everybody's name. Highly recommend that. Or if you're doing a massive group presentation and using just the trend here, the anonymous view. All right, so that's the one where we look at a whole team pattern, and we can look at a team pattern versus a team pattern. Next up, you can actually look at each factor one by one. So we kind of already went over this, right? I went into the 5 on the right are going to be self-confident, independent, take risks. They really like to, they want to influence things. They're going to come forward with their ideas first. The folks on the left are a little bit more accommodating, team-oriented, unselfish, and so forth. So if I can just ask you to put yourselves on mute. There's someone typing, and I appreciate lots of stuff going on in multitasking with that low C there. But if you wouldn't mind just putting yourself on mute, I appreciate it. Great. So looking really balanced. So we're going to have people that are team-focused and people that are leadership-focused, right, that are the me and the driver. Where are the gaps? How can we put those together? Same with your extroversion, So just kind of little reminders here of what we mean by that, right? So we've got most people on the high side here. So my team is going to be really enthusiastic. We socialize information. We're going to be persuasive. We're going to try and sell you all the time. We really learn through social interaction, and we prefer collaborative work. Now, my one person over here in the darker blue, that's a very low, that person really needs some independent time. They need to think to talk. All of that enthusiastic communication can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming to them. So we really need to be thoughtful in, can our group sometimes be a little bit too much for them? How are we bringing them in? Or how is it perfect that they balance for us, right? So they're going to balance things out, that they're going to be more of our analytical person. They're going to be the person that digs into things. When we do work collaboratively, that person is going to prefer to do their work on their own and then bring it back to the group. So maybe the tasks we give them in collaborative work, we want to make sure it matches the best way for them to bring forth their best work. So as we keep going through, you see, again, we've got low patience here. Now, this is one of our really sticky points when we're looking at just individual factors. The patience factor can be one of the most tricky places in teams. People with low patience tend to really have a very high sense of urgency. They respond well to pressure, and so much so that they will tend to create it because they get a creative burst from it. Doesn't mean they're nicer under pressure. Doesn't mean they're necessarily, I want to say, quote unquote, better under pressure. It simply means they have a positive response to pressure. When they create that pressure, they can push it to those around them. People with high levels of patience do not respond well to that kind of pressure. It does not get them to kind of kick it into overdrive and get it done. It can do the opposite. It can put them into overwhelm. So when you've got someone that's charge, go, get it done yesterday, when in reality, we really don't need to put that much pressure on it. It isn't a pressurized situation. We can take a more responsive, thoughtful approach. That's when your stabilizer, your high C people need to come in and have their space. But when you're on a low C team as a high C person, you can go into overwhelm pretty quickly. So being, especially as a manager, really looking at this piece, if I'm a low C manager and my team are high C people, I'm probably going to try to motivate them by putting pressure on them, and that's not going to work. So great insight there. And then finally, with the formality, high side, we're looking at black, white clarity, looking at the rules, likes direction, respects the rules, very skilled with details, high precision. Low side, really comfortable with that gray, that ambiguity. I'm less apt to conform to things. I'm going to pay attention to the things that are important, but leave everything else to someone else. This is a great spot to, on a task team, have a balance. So you want your people that are more of the big picture, seeing everything more creative with their lower level. High side, you need those people that are going to follow through on those ideas. Make sure it gets done and make sure that we do it in a lawful way, that we don't get ourselves put in jail. So good A's and D's, especially having a nice balance on a task team. All right. And then the final insight from factor combinations, which is my personal favorite. So in the analytics, if you haven't been through the full training, factor combinations may be a new concept for you. There is some great information in Catalyst, and I put it on the last slide. If you go to Catalyst and watch the factor combinations power up, it's a 6-minute video that gives you a great overview of these 6 factor combinations, because the drives don't act independently. And those 3 main places that I talked about, right, the communication, decision-making, and taking action that are most important to teams, I've highlighted in blue here. So the relationship between the A and the B is a relationship of people or task orientation. That's also a really good indicator of how we like to communicate, whether we're going to want to have that scrum where we talk it out, or if I'm going to want an email. The AD relationship is if we're comfortable or cautious with risk. That's our decision making. That's the one that's really going to influence or let us know how someone makes decisions, whether they're going to be more cautious, more guarded, more protective, or if they're going to be more venturous, kind of the maverick of where I want to be on the bleeding edge because risk equals opportunity for me, and how those two can really help each other on teams, that you really need both of those to be able to land somewhere in the middle. And then finally, that AC relationship, which is proactive or responsive. That's our, I'm going to drive, I know where I'm going, we're going to go fast, we're going to get there, I'm confident. So I'm both confident and quick and have a sense of urgency and purpose to get this done, versus I'm here to respond. Let's really look at the process at which we need to do this. We're not in a hurry here. And again, that's a really good one to have as a balance too for certain teams. So the AB is communicator, AD, decision making, AC, taking action. The others are important as well, but those are the three that I would focus on. And the way that you read this graph, again, you can have everybody's name in there, or it can be trend like this. The darker the color, the more intense it is for that person. And if you see that middle arrow in there, it's where we flip. So there's the A over C, which simply means the A is higher, the C is lower, and that makes that person proactive. And the inverse of that is the C over A, which is the responsive. And if you move out from there, you see it's the same. So we've got CD, DC. So you'll see the exact opposite of your people as you move from that center point to the left and to the right. This can be a really great indicator. Also, when you're in the system, if you hover over those tabs at the bottom, this is obviously a static picture, so I can't do it for you, but in the system, it will give you those words to the left there. So if you hovered over that AC, it would say proactive. If you hovered over the CA, it would say responsive. So there's great little cheats in there. A little bit more into the AB relationship, the task orientation or the people orientation. So this is the communication, how I give and speak in my communication and receive my information, and how I interact with people. Am I a more solitary? I wouldn't necessarily say introverted, but I like to think before I speak. I work more independently. My contributions come after I can sit independently, work through it, and bring it back, versus being socialized. I've got to talk it out. I need to figure out my ideas by interacting with other people. Really going to be important on teams. Then AD, again, this is also about how much detail. So if you've got that higher D with that lower A, I'm going to need a lot of detail and direction. I'm someone who actually is really comfortable following a strong lead with detailed directions. Now, if I become a subject matter expert, then I'll lead the group because I know exactly what's expected. But give me all the detail first. This is the person who's going to dig in, do all your research, and bring the research to the team. They also, so if you've, the flip side of that is if I've got a higher A, lower D, I really need freedom to take risks. I need that freedom to be able to kind of go out there, do what I need to do. Let's see what happens. We'll figure it out later. And then the AC is how much planning do I need to give the person or the team. So on a team, if you've got lower A and higher C, you're really going to need to give them some structure. You're going to give them some time. So if you're a manager who's built inversely, right? So if you're a high A, low C manager, which happens a lot, of a team of high C, low A people, you tend to be a person who just kind of jumps in, figures it out on your own. Like, I'm good. Let me just get in there and start working it. I'll figure it out. Your team actually needs a lot of time and structure or process, some ramp time to get in there. So giving them markers, giving them ample time to meet things. They learn through repetition, and they're going to be slower in their approach and more deliberate rather than, let's see, okay, I tried that, it didn't work, let me try something else. They're going to work in the opposite way of that. So if you have two teams that are contributing to a same end product, one team is built in that proactive A over C way, one team is built in the responsive C over A, they're going to bump up to each other because each one of them thinks that the other one is doing it wrong. And that's where this information can help to say, we need both of you. We need these people that are going to drive and try and figure things out and maybe mess up sometimes. And we also need the people that are going to have a slower, more deliberate, more consistent approach to things. Because really, at the end of the day, it's just all about supporting each other the best way that we know how. That each person can bring something different to the team. Each team can bring something different to the company. Using this analytic tool to really understand how your people work with each other rather than just individually, separate from one another, is really important. There's another tool that's just come out. They're still kind of working on it. So if you go into the beta system, if you're working in the Crescendo beta, on the left-hand browser side, there's that team where you get to your group analytics. There's also a new thing called team work styles. So this is that same team, and instead of in all those charts and bars, this is going to actually make it easier to read all of that without having been trained. So this is coming, don't worry. They're going to look at communication, taking action, and decision making. You'll be able to click on each of those tabs and see how each of the 4 squares is for communication, taking action, and decision making. So we've got our competing, our enterprising, our supporting, and our aligning. They just changed those names last week, so I don't get too connected with them. Beta changes quickly lately. But the tool itself is here to stay, and they're looking for feedback. So I really highly suggest you go and check this out, look at it with your team, and click that little purple got feedback and give them feedback on how you like it and what you'd like to see more of in there. Whew. Here we are. So right at the end, some resources here. I'm just going to leave this up for you guys to read. I'm going to take the recording off now for any questions.